Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now, we always take a look at the technical charts. We're looking at Cartesi here today, which is CTSI. I'm a little late to the game. I apologize to my community members that asked for me to cover this yesterday. I had some personal things going on and wasn't able to make the time for it. But at this point, I would like to kind of educate you on best practice so you don't get wrecked, and obviously make sure we try to find a good entry point for you if possible. Of course, situations like these, it's kind of usually just to hurry up and wait. But we'll find out exactly what's going on by looking at the charts. I'm not a financial advisor, just bear that in mind. This is for educational purposes only. You should do your own research. Always take ownership of your own trades. And I like to do that myself as well, which is why I have a Signal group through my Patreon community. If you'd like to check that out, link in the description below. I share all of my trades with my community members, and we essentially just kind of learn as much as we can. All right, so it's good situation there. We're 30 plus members presently in only a month and a half, so all is well. Thank you again to my community members for joining and having your faith and putting your faith in me here. Really appreciate that. We've got an 80% success rate so far, and it's really cool. Either way, enough about that. Why don't we just go ahead and check out the charts? Let's get to it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look at Cartesi, which is CTSI. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to get a baseline of the market so we know exactly what's going on. So if you are new to the channel, we like to look at those things because we need to be a well-informed trader, right? The whole point of doing good trading is to compare and see how Bitcoin is performing first before you jump in, because there's a lot of correlations between the markets. And I like to explain that because some people ask me why I do that, and honestly, it's a fundamental quality that you need to include in every analysis. Okay, so it's kind of the basics, for lack of better terms. So let's go ahead and take a look here first. Now, this is TradingView.com desktop application. I have a link in the description below for a free month if you'd like to check that out. I recommend the paid versions where you just have more than 2 indicators present. It really helps kind of give you everything you need to know, right? So honestly, you need more than 2 indicators. So I just recommend considering that. I'll go ahead and go through those here today with you. But the main one that we want to use on the 4-hour chart is the 200 and the 50-day simple moving averages. Now, some people utilize the EMA 250. I prefer the simple moving averages because larger time frames, they respond better, whereas the EMA lines are better on shorter time frames. Okay, so that's just a kind of general concept. The EMAs respond quicker to price action, so it makes much more sense on smaller time frames. At least I've noticed more consistency with the SMAs on the 4-hour chart or higher. So that's why we have that here. And the orange line here is essentially the 50, which is trying to make its way up to the price action now. And the 200 is obviously lagging behind because it's based on the 200 days average price, right? So that being said, we are currently above support. We broke through over the weekend the resistance of 45,000, which is now a support level. It has been tested one time, as you can see here. It was tested once, and that was approximately 5 to 6 hours ago, and the price ramped right back up as if it's a very, very strong resistance. So if the price does come back down, we should expect 45,000 to be a strong resistance, okay? Furthermore, we do have a resistance at about 42,500. That was tested a few times previously, but now it's a support. And at this point, it's just, the 1-day chart, to clarify, I don't usually cover this, but the 1-day chart did close above support here, very strong. And we're up over the 200 as well. So Bitcoin is on, doing very well. I would think it would be safe to say that the price should not retrace back down below 45,000 in the near future. It might come down and test it again, but now we have that 200 supporting the price action. It's a very good sign. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at Ethereum next. Now, Ethereum is interesting the way that it responds. It's done very well overall ever since the fork. I think that happened last week. And we can see right now the price action is up over the 50 and the 200, obviously, as well as the fact that we're above this resistance level of 2,900. Now, that was a strong resistance, and now it's a support level. You can see it's been tested twice already, and definitely rejecting. So that really gives us good faith in the fact that a long position for Ethereum right now is practical and very very safe, as long as Bitcoin doesn't drop sub 40,000. I think we're in pretty good shape. It's safe to presume that we won't, because again, that 200 and the resistance level on Bitcoin at 45,000 is looking very good, right? Or the now support of 45,000. All right, so that's kind of Ethereum there. Generally speaking, I think it's safe to say that Ethereum is in very good shape, kind of back on track. It was lagging for a moment, but now it's right where it needs to be. So let's go and take a look at Cartesi here. And we'll look at the one-day chart first to kind of just quickly speculate, what the average true range is, as well as understanding a few other factors. But I like to look at the average range for any coin to get an idea of kind of what's going on, to help us get a baseline of what its potential is right now. And what I mean by that here is that if we look at the price for Cartesi before the Bitcoin sell-off, in other words, Bitcoin sell-off occurred April 17th. So I always like to look at that. April 17th, look at that. Cartesi, yes, it was impacted, but minorly in the very first time. It took the second downswing from Bitcoin to get the price all the way down to the 25th, which is pretty standard for a lot of coins, and everything seemed to ramp back up there. And look at this, holy moly, it just went crazy bonkers on the 8th of May, and that was an increase. I think that's one of the last times I reviewed this, was about 87% in one day. That's pretty significant. Of course, we had a retracement, and then of course the Elon candle followed suit here, and then the China candle, and the price has been kind of just dwindling ever since, until recently, obviously, when Bitcoin July 21st decided to ramp back up over 30,000 and go on a 9-day bull run, which is still pretty much consistent right now. So all in all, you can see Cartesi followed suit until today, or correction, that would be yesterday. But the last 24-hour period did some serious things. Like, so let's take a look here. So that is just approximately 175% from bottom to top as far as how much the price moved in one trading day. That is insane. So it's safe to say that the 200 and the 50-day simple moving averages are currently support levels. Another thing to note as well is when the price jumps up like this, and as you can see, this is so funny. It almost always happens. If you take the distance here from bottom to top and cut it in half, that's right where the price action is settling. Common rule of thumb with cryptocurrency is the fact that anytime you have a significant candlestick that raises like it did here today, or just in general, anything that's considered overbought, it will retrace almost always 50% of its original distance. So if you take bottom to top, cut it in half, that's pretty much now a support and resistance level right here in the center point where the price action closed in that candle. Now I'm willing to guess too, we can look back here as well to find or identify maybe even a support or resistance level. There was one here at about 81 cents. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. That does look like it's was tested a few times. Okay, so we'll just kind of mark that there. We could also use the Fibonacci retracement tool and kind of see it'll probably be just below. But let's go ahead and go with this here. And you can see, yep, right above and below. So that's almost smack dab right in the center of Fibonacci retracement, which is actually fantastic because you don't ever want to, plan your exits or your entries on those levels specifically. You always want to go above or below, so you're never, stopped out prematurely, or you don't end up finding your position or getting into your entry point. So that's why I like to go with a 50% kind of an average there. This is just below 50, but that's pretty darn close. We'll look at a smaller time frame to see if we can identify anything else, but that is essentially what we're looking at for now. Now, moving on to, we're going to probably see, yep, RSI is extremely overbought. No surprise there, almost 89, and it's kind of retracing itself back down. It'll take a little while for the one-day chart for it to come back down. We'll probably see some sideways action here from Cartesi, but again, bear in mind there's likely some strong fundamentals here. This isn't just a random technical anomaly. These things happen because strong fundamentals are occurring in the back scenes, things we don't see ourselves. All right, so keep that in mind. Now, if you look down here, we got a convergence on the 23rd. That's no surprise. That's the third day after Bitcoin jumped over 30,000. So that's pretty standard. So I wouldn't really bother with that. Let's look at the 4-hour chart and kind of see here. We can tell that the support is currently holding at approximately 81 cents, whereas the price is at about 83 right now. But if we look at RSI on the 4-hour chart, again, still overextended, but it is retracing back down. So, had you had an open position, it usually is a good consideration to try to trim your position when the RSI comes back down closer to 70. In this example, it wouldn't work very well because of the fact that there's a good chance Cartesi could continue based on the fundamentals alone. But if you just look strictly at the technicals, it would be a good consideration to trim your position just based on the fact that that's all we have to go on right now. And commonly, that's the general rule of thumb, is when the RSI gets closer to 70, that's when you want to consider trimming, or more importantly, just closing your position if you're holding a short-term swing trade. If you're going more long-term, different story, but again, really just depends on the big picture here. Another thing to note too, and I kind of skipped over this, is the fact that Cartesi's highest point was $1.75, and today, correction, yesterday, it tried to hit $1.25, or it did hit 125. So it was close to its previous all-time high, if you consider it that way, in the sense that right now where the price action is presently, it's still overextended because yes, it spent some time up here, but that was when we had this hype train from April 25th to May 11th, just before the Elon candle and the China candle took everything down. So that's just something to be aware of and something to be mindful of. I do feel like the price is overextended right now. Yes, CTSI, Cartesi has some good fundamentals, but sometimes that doesn't matter when these technical charts are telling us, we have some serious sell signals. Not saying we have to sell, just telling you that is kind of what it's telling us here at this point, that it is extremely overextended. And the likelihood of it continuing upwards is, I would say low, just based on a few other factors. Excuse me. So let's go and take a look at the Ichimoku cloud. what cloud, right? If you're new to the channel, Ichimoku cloud is just a really good indication of buy signal or sell signal, right? So hypothetically, had you bought in here on the cloud, that would have been a great entry point at about 47 cents. You would have doubled your profit if you took your profits right now. But long story short, the price is above the cloud, you invest for a long position. When it's below the cloud, you go short. So right now it's obviously above the cloud, and we won't see for another, I would say, 24 hours until it might try to intersect with this. The cloud can have a tendency of trying to work as a support level, so it might continue sideways, hopefully stay above the support here. And obviously over here, once it hits this cloud, it could bounce and continue upwards, or it could retrace, and then we're in more of a sell shorting position. But I think this support level here is probably pretty important because it does look like it's been tested a couple of times in the last 2 hours. It may even be trending right now towards getting another test. So just bear in mind, the more often you knock on a door, the more likely it is to open, right? Same concept as support and resistance levels. The more frequently it's tested, the more likely it is to break. So we'll see what happens here. Time will tell for Cartesi, but on the 1 hour chart, we also want to take a look at TD sequential. This will not be any surprise. In other words, we have extreme exhaustion here, as we can tell, halfway through its, well, like third or a quarter of its way through its life cycle here, we hit a 9. And usually that signals a retracement, right? Because that was extremely overextended. So you look at that right there. What, from the first start, from the 1 to the 9, we had a 50% growth. So it was like, it's going to turn around. Things have to go back down because it's too overextended. And I'm sure, that standard deviation causes, the price to come back down, but it just kept on going up. So that's why I believe there are some fundamentals. There could have been a lot of shorts getting squeezed out too. That does happen to drive the price up even further. And then of course, everyone jumps on the hype train. The people like you and I, we start investing up in here, and then we drive the price even higher. There's different waves, so to speak, for trading sessions, but the TD sequential basically was telling us it was overextended back here at about 63 cents, and it just kept on going up to about 125, 127, somewhere there. So yeah, obviously we saw some crazy stuff here, but the bottom line is that right now we should expect some retracement, or at least a decent amount of sideways action before it comes back up again, or it might continue to test that support at 81 cents and start and break that support, and then it's considered a resistance and it might drive the price down. I don't think it's going to drop dramatically because typically we see 50% retracement, which we've seen so far, which is why it's averaging out here at about 82, 83. But in the near future, I would say we should expect some kind of sideways action for a little while, because we take a look at the volume here. I can only imagine. Yep. Look at that. You compare that with all this here, just short little spikes, and we got this massive, massive increase. So even still, if you look at it here as well, we got a lot more volume right now than we did previously. So there is definitely some interest in CTSI right now, Cartesi, and it shows. People tend to notice when prices jump, 200% in a 24-hour period. All right, let's look at the 15. Quickly glance at EMA and VWAP. There's not going to be much to extract here except for the simple fact that we did have some buy signals back here. Honestly, any one of these would have been good indications of buy signals. I probably would have invested there had I had my alert set up for Cartesi, because the simple fact that you have 2 solid green bars moving in succession, that's 30 minutes of confirmation. The price is over EMA and VWAP, so it basically tells us that we have bullish momentum that is confirmed. And it continued upwards, of course, from there. and the rest is history. But for right now, if you look at it, presently, price is kind of hovering above and below EMA and VWAP. There's not a lot of indications of buy signals right now because again, it's a consolidation phase. Consolidation has a tendency of jumping up or down. It has a shorter standard deviation, but generally speaking, until we find its bottom or we continue to reiterate this 81 cents as a support level, we're going to see some more sideways action from Cartesi. So all in all, that's what I like to make sure to cover. Please feel free to reach out to me through Telegram if you have any questions. Of course, I do have a Patron account as well too, where I share all of my trades with my community members. We all learn and grow together, and it's a very good environment. We've have over 30 members already in only about a month and a half. So thank you so much to all my current supporters and subscribers. You're all very fantastic. Sincerely appreciate all of your support. But yeah, feel free to reference me again on Telegram, or more importantly, my Crypto Cash Crew chat, link in the description below. For that as well, it's obviously no cost there. You can just learn and grow with the community there too. So just here to make sure to help out, and I really do appreciate you joining me here today. So we'll see you in the next video. Take care. I'll talk to you later.